That particular thing is an awakening, a consciousness, a coming of being in terms of understanding. You come into this new perspective. And that's why Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah, one of the great scholars of Islam, someone just to give you a glimpse of the magnitude of our scholars, because sometimes we become so detracted from our history that we forget the kinds of people who carried the deen before us. Ibn Qayyim was a man who wrote one of the most famous books about the Prophet ﷺ. Actually, that's a misstatement. He dictated one of the most famous books about the Prophet ﷺ on his way to Mecca. He dictated it to one of his students. The student wrote down the book. The majority of what's mentioned in the book is authentic. A few mistakes here and there. And some of the people who commented on this book, they said it's not strange for this to happen because Ibn Qayyim was someone who memorized the entire Musnad of Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad's hadith collection, 40,000 hadith, Ibn Qayyim memorized it. So it's not strange that he can write a book of this caliber from his memory, dictated, and it will all come out authentic and correct. He said that one of the first manzila, the first stage in coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-yaqadha, awakening. Awakening. You have to awaken. You have to come to realize that there is something else going on in life around us other than just what we see with our eyes. That there is more to life than just sleeping and waking up and having fun and eating and drinking and doing all these different things that animals do. There's more to life than that. The first step is that awakening. And that first step that all of us go through, many of us go through, because as my wife, Sheikh Muslima, says, no one commits to Islam in their life. Everyone has a commitment to Islam moment. It's not just people who convert, like myself or others who can accept Islam later in life. They have a reason. Someone asks them, why did you convert to Islam? Why did you revert to Islam? Whatever terminology you want to use. Why did you accept Islam? The same question goes to every single person in this masjid today. Why did you accept Islam? Why are you here right now? That is a level of consciousness, that's a level of reflection that not only we go through, but that the Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, he went through himself. He ﷺ, before the revelation came, we know from the stories that he would go and he would retreat to the cave of Hira. And he would climb this cave. For those of you who have been to Mecca and actually climbed and gone to the cave of Hira, it's not an easy climb. But he ﷺ would go up here. At the age of 39, 40 years old, he would be taking this trip. And he would retreat in this cave. And he would think to himself, and he would call upon Allah, not knowing how to call him. Imagine, subhanAllah, sometimes we don't realize the blessings we have. Just to be able to say the word Allahu Akbar is better than everything we see around us. The Prophet ﷺ is going to the cave, he's saying, Ya Allah, I know that you're there, but I don't know how to worship you. How should I live my life? Until he ﷺ, the revelation came to him. And he was given the mission to show us the answer to that question. So he ﷺ is retreating in the cave with the consciousness, what is it all about? What is these people that I see around me? What is really going on? Sometimes if you go across a bridge, for example, like if you have an overpass over a freeway, do you ever go and you stop and you think and you look at all the people passing in the freeway and you think to yourself, how many of these people recognize Allah? How many of these people realize the truth of their existence? Or are they just moving? They're just moving. They're just moving. And we don't want to be the same. And the Prophet ﷺ, he set that example. Until Jibreel alayhi salam, as we know, he came to him. He said, Iqra, the first revelation. Because now you begin to come to this realization, this consciousness of what life is about. The question is, what do you do after that? Is it just that now I know that Allah exists, but do I just pray? Should I pray? Should I fast? How do I do it? What should I give priority to? How do I increase in my relationship with Allah? These are all questions that we should be asking ourselves. The Prophet ﷺ, the first thing that was told to him, Iqra. He said, Ma ana biqari. I am not someone who can read. I'm unlettered. One brother, he told me, don't say he's illiterate, ﷺ. Yes, technically the meaning is true, but it has a bad connotation. And we don't want to talk about the Prophet ﷺ like that. He's unlettered. مَا أَنَا بِقَارِئ. I don't read. I can't do it. Jibreel repeats to him, squeezes him hard. Because learning, going on the path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not easy. He climbed the mountain. He sat in isolation. People would bring him food. Jibreel tells him, Iqra, read. He says, I don't read. He squeezes him. It takes effort. It doesn't come easily. You're not going to realize yourself, your relationship with Allah just like that. He told him again, Iqra. He said, Ma ana biqari. I don't read. Squeezed him. Iqra. Ma ana biqari. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who created. خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ. Even when you're reading in the name of your Lord, know where you came from. Who created the human being from a clot of blood. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. Sometimes we think, especially in a culture, alhamdulillah, where there's opportunity for many people, we think that if we do it, we fall into the American paradigm. If I put my effort in, I'll automatically achieve it. If I put my effort in, I'll automatically achieve it. So you say, okay, I want to learn about Islam. I'm going to go read. Just like the Prophet ﷺ was told, read, recite. In the name of your Lord who created you from a clot of blood. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in other places in the Quran, when He's warning the people who are arrogant, He says, you know what we created you from. I don't even have to say it. Allah is telling, I don't even have to tell you where you came from. You know where you came from. So do it. Do that process with humility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives them this first command. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of the stuff that's going on around it, we don't have time to get into, obviously. But what happens after that? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he takes this command, he takes it very seriously. لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به. Don't keep moving your tongue in order to rush with it. The Prophet ﷺ, as he's being told, read, know this revelation, take it to the people. So he's worried, he wants to recite it, he wants to repeat it, he wants to keep trying, he wants to keep struggling. Allah tells him, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. It is our responsibility to bring it together and to know that it is recited, referring to the book of Allah. Just the way that He subhanahu, took care of all the righteous people who have come before, including the other prophets. Musa alayhi salam, when he's told, go to Fir'aun, innahu tagha. Go to Fir'aun, he's oppressing people in the earth. Musa alayhi salam, he comes and he's supposed to speak a word of truth to this tyrant. And he throws, the people, the sorcerers, they throw their stick and he begins to feel to himself, subhanAllah, maybe he's a little bit afraid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, throw your stick. And do not fear. We are with you. We are with you. The Prophet ﷺ, he's being confirmed to by Allah. Don't worry about moving your tongue so much. It's going to come. But he put the effort in. The second thing that happened to him ﷺ, and there's a reason why I'm getting into this. As I told to the brothers in Masjid Ibadullah in LA last week, for those of you who grew up playing basketball like myself, you can understand. In basketball, there's the triple threat. The triple threat means you catch the ball in a position so that you can pass, you can shoot, or you can drive. You can do all three. You have full potentiality. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's dealing with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, trying to teach him how to come in that relationship and carry the message of Islam, He gives him sallallahu alaihi wasallam and us by proxy the triple threat. He gives us what we need to do in coming closer to Him. So after he was told, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Iqra, read, the next revelation that came, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qum al-layla illa qalila. Oh, you who are enwrapped in garments, stand in the night. Stand in the night, except a little bit of it. Pray. Bring not only knowledge to the table, but that knowledge needs to be tempered and held together by spirituality, by the actual effort of carrying this message by standing in front of Allah in the night. And many of us who are in charge of communities, many of us who do work, we forget that the quality of our work, what happens in our masajid, what happens in our conferences and our conventions, it's dictated by how we deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when nobody else sees us. And that is the moment of truth in one's relationship with Allah. What do you do when you're alone? Not what do you do with your brothers. Alhamdulillah, with our brothers, with our sisters, we're strong. We can handle things that we can't otherwise. And that's why this deen always comes together and why we come together every single day. But what do we do by ourselves? And that's why the Prophet ﷺ actually, upon him, praying in the night was obligatory. It wasn't an option. It was something that he had to do, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Because this is what builds the quality of the messenger. This is the way that Allah is telling him, this is how you do it. And that's why Umar radiallahu anhu, Ibn Khattab, the second ruler of the Muslim city-state, he said, I give my day to the believers and I give my night to Allah. I'm busy all day long. إِنَّ لَكَ فِي النَّهَارِ سَبَحًا طَوِيلًا. Verily for you in the day there's this long struggle. The word actually in Arabic is the same word used for swimming. You go and you struggle and you put in the effort and it's as if you're drowning. But what do you do in the night? The same surah, by the way, that I just mentioned. What do you do in the night? To bring yourself back up, to give you the strength again, you reconnect with the divine. That which cannot fail. That which does not fail. Which is reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having God consciousness with Him. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And the one who has God consciousness, Allah will create for him a way out. وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And will give him rizq, provision from that which he does not know. He can't even begin to comprehend. And many of us know this. Many of us know this. We've experienced it. Allah has given us that gift. The rate when the difficulty comes, there's just a way out. There's just a way out. And you don't know where it came from. And that's the second component that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Spirituality. Don't forget in your relationship with knowledge, with the cerebral, don't forget the relationship with your heart. The third thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, Ya ayyuhal muddathir, qum fa'anzir. Oh you, again, who are enveloped in garments, stand and warn. Stand and warn. Action. You have this belief, you have this spiritual quality and strength that now you've been imbibed with. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And that's one reason why someone that you guys all know, Sheikh Suhail Mullah, one of my dear friends, one reason I love him, he's very practical. He doesn't like to talk a lot of theoretical things, a lot of crazy stuff, get into silly arguments. He wants to know, what do you want to do? Are you ready to put in work? Because this is the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not a playground. This is not something that we do for fun. This is something, a message that we have that we have been honored with, to carry to people. Just like one of the early scholars, he said, if the kings knew what we have in our hearts of happiness and love out of our relationship with Allah, they would come after us with swords in order to take it from us. This is what Allah has blessed us with. It's not something to play around with. It's something to put in action. And that relationship, that triple threat of knowledge, spirituality, and action is what leads to the dynamic and comprehensive, holistic personality of the Muslim. Someone who's embodying, by the will of Allah, the divine message on this earth. He is the example. She is what people say. They say, I want to be like that person. Like one brother, he said he was at his work and he was talking to the secretary. They said, we need someone to come help us. So-and-so is going to come help us. And he started saying, that guy who's going to come help us, he's a non-Muslim, and the secretary is a non-Muslim. Says, that guy who's going to come help us, he's such a nice guy, he's so good. He starts saying all these nice things about him. The secretary turns to the brother. This shows you the quality of the brother. She says, he would make a good Muslim. She's not Muslim, the other guy's not Muslim. The boss is Muslim. She says, he would make a good Muslim. If he's such a good guy, then he would make a good Muslim. That means if you live the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we say, you put your money where your mouth is. You do what you're supposed to do. You carry the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is not theoretical. We know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he was able to accomplish in his life. A very short life of messengership, 23 years. The entire face of the earth was changed in 23 years. That's something powerful. That's something real. That's something that comes as a result of these three things together. And in the second half of the khutbah, inshallah, I'll share a couple stories of people who are able to accomplish that and able to do that, and what that has as a result on the human being. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه ونصلي ونسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه صلى الله عليه وسلم. وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَ دِينَهُ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. Everyone come forward if you can, inshallah, make space for your brothers. And as you do that, I remind you all and myself to have taqwa, to have God consciousness. Not only fear of Allah. Taqwa is not fearing Allah. Taqwa is having an elevated consciousness, so that if you're wearing what I'm wearing right now, as one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what is taqwa? Mat taqwa? He said to him, have you ever gone wearing something like this through a thorny patch? He said, yes. He said, what did you do? He said, I did like this. I moved it. I got away from the thorns. He said, that's taqwa. That taqwa. That is what it is. It's having that consciousness in the way that we live our lives, that we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us. One of the examples other than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, alhamdulillah, is the greatest example of what it means to live this combination. But it's important to look also beyond him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because sometimes we say he's the Prophet. We think that we can't be like him, which is true. We can't, but he's still our example. But there's other people like the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Umar ibn Khattab, for example. And I want us to think about Umar. Because Umar, imagine, for example, we don't have to go into the president, but go to the mayor. Imagine Umar, take this story and then think about the mayor. Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhu, he's in control of this massive space of land and people. He would leave at night to walk around the neighborhood, to make sure that there's no problems. He himself would walk at night to see if there's problems. So one night he was walking and he came across a caravan that came into Medina. So he said, okay, I need someone to watch the caravan with me. SubhanAllah, look how they put in effort. He went to Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Abdurrahman is one of the 10 promised paradise. He could have gone to someone, someone who's not as important, quote unquote. But he went to Abdurrahman, he said, can you watch this caravan with me? He said, sure. They began to take turns. One of them prays, one of them guards the caravan. One of them prays, one of them guards the caravan. Umar radiallahu anhu, he hears a baby crying nearby. So he goes to the home of the woman, she doesn't know who he is. He says, ittaqillah. Have God consciousness, pay attention to what you're doing, and take care of your child. So the lady says, okay, whatever. So they go back, and he starts praying again. He starts hearing the crying again. He goes back to the lady's house. Ittaqillah, tells her again, take care of your child. Goes back. Third time, child's crying again. He goes to the house. Ittaqillah. She tells him, I don't know who you are, but you keep bothering me. So this is why my child is crying. Do you know Omar? He said, yeah. Yes, I know who he is. She said, do you know why my child is crying? He said, why? He said, because Omar only gives stipend to the children who have been weaned. They're not being fed from their mother anymore. They've been weaned. So she says, I want that stipend. And my child is only 6 months old, so I'm forcing the child to be weaned so I can get the stipend early. And that's why the child is crying. Umar, he left, radiallahu anhu. He went to where they were, in the masjid. And it was Fajr time. And they started Fajr prayer. Umar led the people in Fajr, and he was crying so hard that they could not understand the words that he was reciting. And he called the people after the salah. He said, how many children of the believers has Omar killed? How many children of the believers has Omar killed? From this day forward, every child will have the stipend, regardless of whether or not they're weaned. He went immediately and fixed the problem. After he's the one who found it, as the mayor, he went and found the problem in the middle of inner city LA, and he fixed it himself. And another time, Umar ibn Khattab, he went out again to search for problems. And he found another one. And he found a tent on the edge of the city, and a Bedouin man, and there was a woman inside the tent, and she was crying. She was kind of, making sounds of pain. So Umar, he says, Assalamu alaikum, what brings you to the city? So he said, I came to the city looking for help from Umar. He doesn't know who he is. Again. He said, and this is subhanAllah, look, many politicians, they do things because they want you to see them doing it. Umar radiallahu anhu, he's doing things, they don't even know who he is. Just like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu before him would go and feed and take care of a blind woman. She didn't even know he was Abu Bakr. He would go every day. Umar's following him like, where is he going? Oh, he's going to a blind lady to help her. She doesn't even know who he is. Radiallahu anhu. Umar, he goes out, he tells the man, Salaamu Alaikum, why are you here? He says, I need Umar, I need help from him. He says, what's the noise inside the tent? The Bedouins, they're tough. He says, who? It's not your business. He doesn't know who he is. Why am I going to tell you why a woman is crying inside my tent? I don't know you. So Umar, he keeps pushing him. He keeps pushing him. Till finally the man says, my wife, she's in labor. And I needed help, and that's why I came to Umar. He came to Umar. Because he knew he'll get the help. Umar, he said, wait here. He went home, he said to his wife, shall I not show you a way to come closer to Allah and find His pleasure? Look at the beautiful language. She said, what is that? O Amir al-Mu'mineen, O Commander of the believers. What is that? Just like we had one Sheikh, mashallah, his wife, although she was also a Sheikha, she would never refer to her husband except as Sheikh. We want to visit the Sheikh. She would say, Sheikh Zakaria is busy today. Sheikh Zakaria, you can call him, maybe you can... She would always refer to him like that. She said to her, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, what is it? He said, someone is in labor, bring some food, grab the food, put it together, and let's go help them. Get together whatever she might need. So they go out. They get to the tent. Umar, he tells her, go in, see if she needs help. And he takes the food himself, tends to the fire, begins to cook the food for the man. The man still doesn't know who he is. Until finally, from the inside of the tent, Umar's wife, radiallahu anha, she comes out. And she says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, give glad tidings to your friend that he has a baby boy. So the man, he turns to Umar. Ya Amir, you're Umar? Umar puts his hand on his shoulder, says, sit here. It's been a long night. He gives the food to his wife, he says, take some food in to the woman. And then he tells the man, he puts the food for the man, he says, eat. And after they ate, they went home. And he said, come to me tomorrow morning, I'll give you whatever you need as a stipend in order to take care of your family. This is someone who was raised, Islamically raised, with the factor of spirituality, knowledge, and action. All of those things come together to bring the person closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are not just fake old stories. I'll tell you one story myself from a brother that I know who was very dear to me, who's been my neighbor for years in Cairo. And when the revolution happened, he was the first one to put on extra clothes and go straight into the square, knowing that he might not come back. And even a couple days ago when I called him when it started again in Tahrir, he said, لا تقلق يا أخي, لا تقلق, ادعوا لنا فقط. And then he said, نزلنا تحرير الآن. For those of you who understand, he said, don't worry, we're okay, just make dua for us. And then he said, we just got the tahrir. He's like, and there's some clashes and people are getting hurt. It's no big deal. This is what I'm doing. This same brother, subhanAllah, he told me in the middle of the revolution when people were getting down. And I lived with him for years. I know knowledge, spirituality, activism. He was the imam of the masjid next to my house. He told me one night I came back and I was arguing with the people in the neighborhood. And they were telling me, it's enough. He said he's going to resign. We don't need to do this anymore. So he said, I was almost convinced by them. And I went to sleep. And in my sleep, I saw the Prophet ﷺ. He said, I saw the Prophet ﷺ. It doesn't end here. I hope I can finish the story, subhanAllah. He said, I saw the Prophet ﷺ. And I saw with him Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhu. And I addressed the Prophet ﷺ, is what we're doing okay? The Prophet ﷺ, he says, he turned to Umar radiallahu anhu. He said, اذهب يا عمر إلى تحرير وثبتهم. He said, go, Umar, to Tahrir, to the square, and give them support. The Sheikh, he says, I woke up in the morning, I prayed Fajr, I told the people, that's it. We're not going anywhere. This is what we're doing. These are not stories. This is not a deen that existed 600, 700, 800, 1,000, 1,200 years ago with just Umar ibn Khattab. This is a deen that is alive and well today. And that is all through the relationship that Allah is teaching us, and the relationship that we as a community have to travel, of coming together, increasing in our knowledge, increasing in our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purifying ourselves of our diseases, and putting in action. And in that process we grow closer to Him. So I say all this, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us of our sins, and to accept from us our good deeds, and to help us to follow the path of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I ask us to increase us in knowledge that benefits us. And to benefit us with that He has taught us. And to give us the good of this life and the good of the next life. And to keep us away from the hellfire. اللهم اغفر لنا وجميع المسلمين. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمحسنين والمحسنات. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم انصر المستضعفين والمظلومين في كل مكان. اللهم انصر المستضعفين والمظلومين في كل مكان. اللهم كن معنا ولا تكن علينا. اللهم وفقنا إلى خدمة دينك. اللهم ثبتنا على سيرة رسولك وعلى سيرة الصالحين من قبلك. اللهم بارك لنا في هذه الدنيا وفي الآخرة وتقبل منا يا رب. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقيموا الصلاة.